The game has many faces, and everyone has a story. My name is Jeremy Sheetinger, and come along for the journey as the farm system explores where the game was, where it is, and where it's going. From big league clubhouses to little league parks, this game has a lot to offer. For the first time ever, this series will attempt to pull back the curtain and demystify the game. The stories, those are endless as we pull perspectives from inside professional baseball, down through all levels of college, into high school and youth baseball, the highest levels of softball, business professionals, and even training facilities. Come along as we connect the dots and celebrate the special people from within our community telling their stories from inside the game we all love. This is The Game.
Everyone has a story. My name's Randy Sullivan, and this is the story of the Florida Baseball Armory. I grew up the son of a sports dad. My dad was really the hero of my life. He was an Air Force sergeant and coached every team I ever played on from the age of 7 on. And I'm really proud to say we won the championship in every league we ever played in because we would practice every day. He was really intense about it. And when I turned 15, he passed away. He had a heart attack and died. And so went through a little rough phase there where didn't have any guidance and gravitated toward baseball.
I'm Eugene Bleeker, and this is the story of 108 Performance. My grandfather loved the game. Right, and introduced me to the game at a young age. We'd play catch outside all the time. I mean, I had a ball and bat in my crib. And when I was 7, my mom, she was going to law school at the time, and she needed something for me to do during the day. So she put me in a thing called Buckley Country Day School in Long Island, New York. And I came back after the first day, and I absolutely hated it. It was singing and music and arts and crafts and all that stuff. And I said, I do not want to do that like ever again. She said, what do you want to do? I said, I want to play baseball. So we looked in the paper and found New York Tech Baseball Academy. And I started the next week, and I went like every week for the next 10 summers, from the time I was 7 to the time I was 17. And it was one of the most incredible experiences ever. I mean, the guys there, Ed Blankmeyer and Larry Miner and Bob Hirschfield and Ed Waters, like they definitely encouraged and instilled a huge love and passion for the game. They fueled it. My grandparents were very big on chasing your dreams and that you can do anything that you want in the world, but you just have to work really hard for it.
Everyone has a story. My name is DJ Edwards, and this is the story of Push Performance. I'm from Mountain View, California, which is just South Bay area. Grew up there up until almost about middle school-ish, and then went to Denver, Colorado. Moved to Denver, Colorado, and I played high school baseball in Denver. Went to, it was a bit large city in Denver. It's Aurora, Colorado. Probably a lot of people have heard of that. And then moved to Southern Idaho for my first year of college. So out of high school, I signed to the University of Hawaii, and my dad and I had a conversation. I was like, dude, you're just too small. I was 5'7", 5'8", 150, 145. Cool, I mean, being from Colorado at the time, had a D1 offer, right? Funny story is my other D1 offers were Air Force and Harvard, and I was not an academic guy at all, whatsoever. So obviously my options were either to go to a junior college or go play at Hawaii. So I committed to Hawaii, didn't sign, nothing like that. My dad and I had a conversation. I wasn't going to play until my junior year minimum, right? Just knowing where I was, who I was as a player, my size. My dad's a baseball guy, obviously, had good feel for that. Ended up going to College of Southern Idaho in Twin Falls, Idaho. You know, they're in a pretty good conference, you know. My eyes were pretty wide open there, and I was like, I am small, I'm weak. I probably should have redshirted out of junior college, truthfully. We had 11 freshmen at that school, and 9 of us left. It was just a bad culture there.
Went to a little small NAIA school out of high school called Erskine College, because I thought, you know, there's the only place I could go. I walked on there. And then 2 years into that, my buddy was playing at the Citadel, the Military College of South Carolina. He was having a great experience there and was telling me about all these organized practices and how much they were learning and how the player development model was so great. And after 2 years, you know, as a shortstop and middle infielder, you know, at this little NAIA school, I transferred to the Citadel.
Transferred to Lamar Community College in southeastern Colorado. We were a powerhouse. We were ranked 4th in the nation. We were an unbelievable team. We were awesome team. I think we're 56-10 total on the year. Everybody on our team had a chance to play either pro ball or moved on to the next level, D1, D2 baseball. Had a way better year there. Got in the weight room. Coach Crampton, who's the athletic director there now, pretty hard ass, but he was also knew how to push you. And you know, it was the culture was fun, the atmosphere was fun. And it's at that time I realized how important it was for me to get into the weight room and to realize that movement was important, right?
Out of high school, I had signed with Fordham University, which is like mid-major D1 back in New York. My grandfather was alum there. Now, school-wise, I did not see the purpose of, you know, going to class or doing homework if I could do well on the tests and the papers, because I thought that if you understood the information, that was enough. So there was a stipulation that if my GPA dropped below 2.7, that Coach Gallagher was going to pull my scholarship. And the first half of my senior year, I was traveling all around the country, going to all the baseball factory stuff and the All-American stuff and doing all that. And I didn't go to class a whole lot, and I didn't do my homework a whole lot. And the second half got worse. And he did a grade check, and I was at like a 2.6, and he pulled my scholarship. So it was the toughest phone call I ever had to make in my life, because my grandfather, who raised me, was a Fordham alum, and he supported this whole thing. And I had to call him and tell him that I lost my scholarship because I was an idiot and wasn't getting it done in the classroom.
I went there, I hit maybe 4 or 5 doubles total the whole year. I hit pretty well. For technically my first real year of playing at Southern Idaho, I probably only had like 50 at-bats or so, 40 at-bats. And then from Lamar, I went to Metro State University, and that's downtown Denver. Pretty powerhouse D2 school. Had 2 really good years there, hit above 300 and did pretty well for the most part. My junior year, then my senior year, I played a lot better, had a lot more power, had a lot more pop. And I had an opportunity to play up in Canada.
A couple months before senior year ended, I was at a pre-draft workout down in Florida. I think it was at Manatee Junior College. And ended up talking with a couple of the players that were also there at the workout, and they were at a school called Nova Southeastern University. And they had a guy who could hit a little bit, but didn't really do a good job behind the plate. And I was the opposite. I could not hit very well, but did a very good job behind the plate. And that was my first opportunity.
Looking back on it, I sent the coach a letter. We didn't have email back then. I wrote him a letter and told him who I was and I'd like to come play. And of course he said, sure, come on. Like, to me, that was like, yeah, we want you on the team. And in truth, it was like, yeah, what are we gonna lose? You're not a scholarship guy anyway, so come on. And so went there, had to redshirt the first year, spent a whole year kind of learning and getting better, and ended up making the travel squad as a batting practice pitcher. And it turns out that when you throw batting practice every day to every guy on the team, as hard as you can from 60 feet, 6 inches, your arm gets really strong. And so in the next fall, I was playing second base. I was a middle infielder with a weak arm and went back on a fly ball, and the guy tagged up and went home, and I threw him out off my back foot with a laser that I didn't even know I had. And our catcher had gotten hurt. He said, "Hey, do you think you can catch?" I go, "If it means I'll play, I'll do anything."
My junior college at Lamar, Coach Crampton would just rip on me. Swinging a wet newspaper, my bat would go backwards. He'd throw pitches in on me as hard as he could, and I couldn't get to the ball. Not a timing issue, a strength issue. I couldn't turn on the ball. And then the spring hit, and I was just like, wow, like I got in the weight room all winter. Like, holy shit, like it happened.
I went there with no scholarship anywhere, and then I ended up getting offered an Air Force ROTC scholarship while I was there. So I took that, and they paid for my school, and so I owed them some time when I got out of the Citadel, and I went to become a nuclear missile launch officer. So there's your story. 22-year-old me was in charge of your nation's nuclear weapons arsenal. I was the guy with the hand on the key, and I just looked at all these missile lights one night going, like, I had 30 nuclear warheads at my fingertips. I'm like, am I helping anybody with this? Is this really helpful? I'm sitting in a hole in the ground in the middle of Wyoming. And so I found out about this physical therapy program where the Air Force would send you to the Army's physical therapy school. So I applied for that, I got accepted, and that changed everything. I now had a skill that I could use, that I could help people with,
Mike Evans was one of the most brilliant baseball minds I had ever been around, and I didn't even realize it until after I left. I was the kid that was always asking questions, and I was never second guessing him, but I was always trying to find out what, because the things he was saying were very unconventional, and I had worked really hard for information. Information was everything. Knowledge was power. Thinking for yourself was really important. And Mike was just brilliant, and it was an amazing opportunity looking back to be able to learn from him and to be able to see just how his mind worked for the game. I grew up in a family of educators and communicators, so I think it was pretty quick and easy for me to realize that I was going to be better suited on the other side of the lines. In 2010, I went to my first ABCA convention. I had this product, and I put together this DVD to go with the product, and I had worked really hard for information my whole life, and I trusted all of these sources of information. So I felt like I had something to offer the game, right, aside from just the product. So I had these DVDs that went with it. And I sat down on one of the speeches, and I got to listen to Brent Strom and Ron Woolforth. And I heard Bernstein's scientific principle for the first time. The body will organize itself based upon the activity that it's given. So if you just try to hit the ball harder, you can hit the ball harder. And I felt like I got hit in the face with a bag of bricks.
I just decided when they were ready to send me off my next assignment in Washington, D.C., I thought, I was a military brat my whole life, and it was maybe time for me to let my kids have some roots and not have to do that. Because, I'd gone to a different school every year until 10th grade, and I was always the new guy. Fortunately, I always had sports to kind of acclimate with people. But I didn't want my kids to go through that. And so I opened up a physical therapy practice, and I was coaching baseball with my three sons, and we got involved in travel ball and the whole experience.
I learned hitting stuff from Rick Down, who was a hitting coach with the Yankees. I grew up in New York watching Jeter do that in the on-deck circle, and then here's this guy showing me on video that he didn't swing down, showing me that he swung up and that the ball travels on a downward plane and the barrel needs to travel up to meet it, and it made total sense. And when I went back, I had to rethink everything. It's like coming to terms with the fact that everything that you've been taught might be wrong or untrue was a really powerful thing for me. It was a really humbling experience.
My son was a really good left-handed pitcher, but the typical soft lefty, good secondary stuff, great command, 75 pitch complete games, but he couldn't get anybody to offer him a scholarship. He was just going into his senior year, he had no offers. I'm like, what's going on? Because when I played in college, we didn't have many hard throwers. I always told him, man, just throw strikes, get outs, win games. Coaches will want you to be on their team, and girls will want to go out with you. And it turned out that neither one was true. So we had to learn to throw harder, right? So I asked everybody that I knew, how do you teach someone to throw hard? And they said, you can't, it's a gift.
I knew I wanted to focus on player development, and I went hard. I bought my first slow motion analysis system. It felt like I was getting some results with guys. And then joined with a couple of other guys on opening up a shop. One of my best friends from college came out to help open it, and we went after it. We were trying to figure it out, and just doing the best job we could with all the information we had, continuing to try to learn more, put together all these programs. And there was a lot of great experiences along the way, and then also a lot of humbling experiences along the way.
All right, yeah, we finally got all these bags and water balls and oh, hold on, God, sorry guys. Okay, well listen, I told you the water bags were coming in, all right? Water bags, Bulgarians, the balls, we got everything. Whatever you need a co-contraction, we got you, okay? So if you wanna be athletic, learn how to be explosive, learn how to stop, actually do something that transfers from the weight room into the cage, into your swing, into your performance on the field, it's time to go. And if you guys know by now, you should already know there's like 20 different companies that are selling water bags or water balls or all these things. It works, right? The difference is how you're using them, what you're doing with them. That is the real separator. So of course, just like always, ours come with a course, how we're using them in-house, how we use it in prep work, how we use it in the cage, how we blend, all of it, all in one package. Let's dive into it now.
Moved to Vail, that's when I started dating my wife. When I worked at 24 Hour Fitness, I just didn't like what was going on there. I ended up getting fired from 24 Hour Fitness, believe it or not.
It was always DJ's dream to train athletes. So at first it was not athlete specific. It was very much like, we're personal trainers.
She was into it. She was into it until we got into a year. And she's like, what the hell are you doing with your life? I was literally just doing customer service, driving a bus, snowboarding every day, doing nothing, right? And just chilling out. Best time of my life, awesome, And went back to school, started studying what I wanted to study. Realized school really wasn't what I needed to learn. It was more so the application of what I learned first time in school on the exercise science. And the funny story is my test I needed to take for training was written by my wife's college professor. So I was able to study under my wife. So I told her what I wanted to do and what a vision I had. And she goes, all right, well, let's do it.
I just was on the business side with him, just helping him start it, get it going. He did all of the actual training. And then it was like, oh, I want to train athletes. And then it was like, no, I want to train baseball players. And this is exactly what we're going to do.
So ended up going to a storage closet. I'm not lying. It was a small, tiny little room. Started training guys. Had an adult population then, but then started getting a little bit more baseball players, a little more baseball players, a little more baseball players.
It took a couple years, but then it was once we found exactly what he was great at doing, it just, it really took off.
If I can teach a person who just had a stroke to walk again, I think we can squeeze a couple miles an hour out of my kid. I don't know if we can make it elite, but we're gonna try to make it better. And we just went on this research journey to try to figure out how to help him throw better. And we tried a little bit of everything. And fortunately for him, he worked really, really hard. And it helped. After 2 years of junior college, he was touching 93, and the recruiting cycle got a lot more. He was a lot more popular second time around, as you can imagine. And, fulfilled his dream of going to play Division I college baseball. And it wasn't long before we realized that the same things that we were doing to help my son throw harder could also be used to help some of these patients that we had improve their lot as well. Before we knew it, we started attracting in our physical therapy practice injured baseball players because I was a coach and a physical therapist, and people would find out when they got hurt, they would come to us. We were getting into what I call the itis cycle. The doctor diagnoses this guy with tendonitis. He comes in, we do physical therapy, he rests, he goes back out, he starts throwing again, he comes right back in with more itis. And it occurred to me that I've never been sitting around and my shoulder just spontaneously itis. Like, oh, my itis just kicked in right there. It's always something that created that exposed it to forces. And so we began to apply those principles to our physical therapy patients, and we were seeing that we weren't getting this circle anymore. They were going out and actually being better, not only just more healthy but performing better than they ever had, and that kind of just evolved. So the UCL injury is not always arm, it's a lot of times it's the foundation. I didn't get this right. You got to stop this from spinning so you can get your upper body through. It's the same in hitting. You stop the front door so you get the bat head through the plane, get your upper body to go first instead of your lower body, like in agility.
What really began to happen, we became very successful as a physical therapy practice, as well as our kind of our medical home health division. But Randy came to me one day and said, I really love baseball, and this is where I see the calling. And I said, are you sure? Because we're doing pretty well over here, and you want to do this baseball thing?
DJ's always done the manual labor, I would say, you know, like training people, and I now have started more of like, now let's do nutrition.
And through the experience at Adrenaline, when I was running all those things myself and got to control everything that was happening, everything came full circle in the fact that the truth is not on this side or this side. It's really that it's in the middle. And that was a big part of opening 108, was trying to figure out, like, what is player development? What's really gonna impact a guy tangibly at 7 o'clock on the field? What's gonna make it transfer? What are the right things to tell people? What are the right things to do? So the goal for 108 was really to figure it out.
Most people said, Randy, you're crazy. You're gonna go out of business, because most companies do in the first 5 years. You're trying to start up something that there's not a market for. You need to stick to physical therapy.
But as we sat down, and really for him, it was a love and a passion. And I knew one thing, bet on Randy. If he's got the passion for it, he'll do something pretty exciting.
Our administrative office was in this little strip mall right 2 doors down from our physical therapy practice. And the place that was beside us in our physical therapy clinic went out of business. So we kicked the walls down there, expanded. But we had this lease on this one little strip of office. It was 15 feet wide and about 55 feet long. We didn't even have 60 feet. And she goes, what are we gonna do with this space? I go, I have an idea. We could have a place to work out and throw in here. So we started in 900 square feet.
I saw a gap in the market, essentially, right? Where there's not a whole lot of baseball strength guys. Even to this day, there's guys that are trying to do it or are doing it and having success doing it, but there's still not a lot, right? There's a million hitting coaches, there's a million infield coaches, there's a million pitching coaches. And I wasn't afraid of the competition, obviously. I was just more so, I want to give the baseball community what they're not getting, right? I got intrigued with the human body when I was in college. I went to school for exercise science. My wife is a pre-med degree, like in integrated physiology, like, you know, all these factors, like I have all these resources within myself, and it was just a no-brainer for me to do it that way versus me saying, all right, I'm gonna be an infield coach, you know, so is Johnny up the road, and you know what I mean? I mean, for me, it's like, all right, I can go and be a high school coach and just do it for fun, or I can make it impact as many people as I can.
We developed a plan over about 3 to 4 years that we incrementally pulled him out of the physical therapy practice and the business of that, and moved towards the Armory. And so little by little, we moved in that direction.
We weren't attracting dudes when it first started. We were getting, I call them the island of misfit pitchers. Like, we were getting the guy who was cut from the team, the guy who was kicked off the team, the guy who was injured, the guy who was told he wasn't good enough.
We lost a lot of money for a long time. Thank goodness we had the medical side to underwrite that.
And those kids got so good that we developed this little hotbed of talent, and they kicked the door down. We would have, in that little 900 square foot place, 15 coaches from major league teams coming to watch what we're doing. Our guys are getting so good.
And one of the things we always say is that the truth is like a sphere, okay? So if you're looking into a sphere from an angle, right? Everything you're seeing from that vantage point is an accurate and true representation of what is inside the sphere. But at no point from one angle can you possibly see everything that encompasses the sphere. As soon as you shift 5 degrees to the right, 2 degrees to the left, a little north, a little south, you're all of a sudden privy to new information, right? So when you think about that player development sphere, you have the coach, you have the PT, you have the orthopedic, you have the strength and conditioning guy, you have all these, the biomechanist, you have all these different sectors. And everything they're saying might be accurate, but I heard this quote from Neil deGrasse Tyson when I did his master class at the beginning of COVID. Wisdom is the distilled essence of knowledge once you've forgotten all of the details. All of these things have details, but what's important? Where is the meat? What's important to pay attention to? Something might be happening, But that doesn't mean it's important, and that doesn't mean a player knowing about it is going to help them get any better at all. So really trying to see that sphere, and I wanted to put all those people under one roof.
So I think as we were starting to grow and learn and really put ourselves out there in the marketplace for being an innovator in baseball, rehabbing clients, and helping them meet their needs, we did receive some resistance. You know, sometimes you would hear things like, hey, that stuff's a little bit crazy.
We had high school coaches saying, don't let your kids go there. One coach said I was trying to hurt players on purpose so they could rehab them and make money on them in my rehab facility. Like, that's a sustainable market plan, don't you think? That's a good business model.
I literally drew on a piece of paper an outline of what our facility was before this one, right? And I thought that was the end goal, like legit. I was like, that's what I want. I want a batting cage, a little weight room. I'm talking like a 3,500 square foot facility with a batting cage in it. Like, it was small, right? So I drew it out. This is what I wanted, and I was like, this is my goal. 4 facilities later, we have 10,000 square feet, and going and looking at one tomorrow, that's 14,000 square feet, and just the opportunity's been, I mean, we've failed more often than not. Like, people make shit look easy. We failed and fell on our face multiple times. Like, I lived in the hood, right? I lived hearing gunshots, literally. Brandon and I both lived, where we hear gunshots at night, and doing it, like, contemplating, why are we doing this, and I fucking hate when people say, like, it must be nice. Like, oh, it must be nice to have a nice house, or it must be nice to be able to do this with your kids all the time, or do this or do that, take off whenever you want. I'm like, dude, you have no fucking idea what was put into this, working 4 a.m. to 10 p.m. 7 days a week for 7 years straight.
In the beginning, it really hurt my feelings, because I thought, if you know me, you know that my passion is helping players get better. But each guy was a puzzle, and we were just trying to help him solve his own individual puzzle.
He will stay up for days at a time thinking through a process because he can't sleep thinking about how can we move this player to the next level? What are we missing? And all of a sudden he'll say, the ceiling fan told me. And that means he didn't sleep all night, he watched the ceiling fan. And it finally came to him, what could be that missing piece.
And I remember we were working, basically Monday through Sunday. We didn't have weekends off or, the mornings off. We were starting early and just basically there all day. And if we didn't have athletes in the gym, then we were basically experimenting on ourselves. We've been in the trenches for sure. And then now it's really cool just to see kind of where it's at today. Definitely, like I said, wouldn't have pictured this 10 years ago by any means, but it's really cool to see kind of grow, to where it's at.
I wanted everybody to be able to communicate under one roof. So after everything built, I mean, we opened, it was 60 players to open, and then it was 100, and then it was a wait list of 200, and then it was 1 shop to 2 shops. And, the whole purpose for getting bigger wasn't to be bigger. The whole purpose was to be able to hire the people that I needed to hire to figure the things out that we needed to figure out.
Came into 108 in the middle of 2018 after I finished playing independent baseball. I was looking for somewhere to train, and one of my former players at the University of Dallas, he told me he used to train at this place called 108, and there's this cool guy with a mustache just like you that you should go meet. Came out here to train first, ended up interning at the same time.
I went to the ABC in 2019, in Dallas, really cool experience. So I ended up going down in 2020, and like when you're a newbie, like you're not in those cliques, you're not in those circles, so you're just like shooting DMs, shooting emails, like hoping you get like one guy to respond. And one of the guys that responded was Eugene, and I loved how he was very willing to go against the grain. So I knew I had to have a conversation with him. I ended up going over to him and just tossed him a couple questions, a couple softballs, and he spent an hour of his time with me. And to me, that was really cool because like when you're young, you don't have those kinds of connections, but he was very, very generous. Like after that conversation, I knew this was a guy like I wanted to be around.
I loved working with those players so much that I started looking at it like, this is the price you have to pay for the privilege of working with these kids that you get to work with every day. If you're not willing to accept the criticism, then you haven't earned the right to work with the players. Because if you're gonna stay status quo and do what everybody else does, as we all know, you're gonna get what everybody else gets. And so you have to begin to look at the criticism as almost like a badge of honor, and also the price I have to pay for the right to work in this space. I have to be willing to accept criticism. And when you kind of shift that paradigm, it stops hurting as much. It's like, okay, I'll take the bullets so my players don't have to. And eventually, if your ideas are good and your motivation is right, and your passion is there and you're willing to be flexible and be open to new ideas, the players will speak for you. Your results will speak for you, because you'll be like, okay, look, these players, I can line up a whole army of players that would say otherwise. And so in the beginning, you just got to look at it as a price you have to pay.
And through hiring all these people and developing all these partnerships, we really had the opportunity to like figure out what is important, what's actually going to transfer, where do results actually come from, what do the best in the world do, and what have they always done.
The biggest piece of technology that I use in my business is HitTrax. It allows me to record every single swing that all of my players take in private or group settings. It allows me to give them instant video feedback, and I can send them home with that feedback, with that video, with the data. Within HitTrax now is Pelotero, allowing me to do all of my in-house assessments, all of my programs, send everybody home with stuff to work on, not just data points, but actually how are they going to get better. I've been able to cut down on a lot of program hours. We haven't had to do any of the back-end stuff with Excel. We haven't had to make adjustments that way.
What we've been able to do with our programs is create a place where hitters have to do hitter-ish things.
With Pelotero, the ability to leverage the power of HitTrax, the ability to bring that data in immediately and build custom programs, it's such a powerful tool that's going to impact so many players.
To me, 1% better every day is like, what is it, 14 minutes, something seconds a day, right? It's like, what are we going to do with each athlete for that 14 minutes, 15 minutes every single day to make them truly 1% better, you know? And that's not just being a good baseball player, but it's also teaching them responsibility. If they miss a workout, you know, right? They didn't schedule it or whatever, like we teach them those kind of skills. We'll teach them that they need to sign up, and teach them they need to put their programs in and track their weights, and we need to do this, do that, right? So it's about them growing up, being a better person on the big league side. It's more so just not overstepping our boundaries. It's more so just leading them in the right direction. All right, this is what we believe. This is what we believe will help you. If you don't like it, let us know and we can communicate. And communication is key, first and foremost. It's the number one thing for us. And I think that's a big part of it too.
Make a muscle right there, put your hand on it. Try that, Joey, make a muscle, put your hand on it. Now just internally rotate your shoulder like this and pronate your forearm. It goes away, right? The muscle turns One of the things that we've gotten lost in is sort of this rush to technology. Like, let me just tech the heck out of it and get all the data that we can get, and all the information we can get. Science-based and data-driven has become everybody's mantra, marketing tagline, right? And the problem is that the science and the data will tell us what we need to work on, and it's doing a good job of that. The gap that I see is, hey, now we know what to work on. How do we get there? What's the best way to teach? And I think that knowing what to work on has never been easier. How you learn it is probably the most important thing. And it turns out that how you learn is probably more important than what you learn. And I think that if you can have a process that looks at all the different variables in performance, okay, and that really dives into linking the athlete's hardware, his physical structure, to his software, how his body's choosing to move, and come up with a process to individualize your assessment and individualize your interventions. And that comes down to an individual coach building an individual relationship with an individual player.
And I think that relationship that he builds so many times with the players, they trust him.
I'm originally from Auburn Hills, Michigan, was mostly a catcher growing up. Ended up being a late transition into pitching my senior year of high school. Took off on me pretty quickly, and I ended up getting drafted in June. Turned that down to go to the University of Illinois. Had 3 very injury-filled years full of adversity there. Was lucky enough to still get drafted by the White Sox in the 15th round in 2018. And unfortunately, my first week there, second live outing, I completely tear my lat off of my back.
Freshman summer of my college, I went and played in the Collegiate Summer League. Blew out my shoulder. Back at that time, labrum was kind of like, hey man, you might never really kind of throw again. And so I had shoulder surgery my sophomore year of college, and one of my buddies said, hey, you need to go check out this guy. I hear really great things.
In between spring training and extended spring training, I decided to fly out here to Tampa, and me and Randy worked together for about 2 or 3 days and kind of showed me the path that it would take for me to be able to come back. And it was really the first person that gave me like a tangible plan of like, okay, we can do it. We don't know how long it's gonna take, but we can do it.
Came down, saw Randy, and he rehabbed me from shoulder surgery. Randy, honestly, he bought me 4 more years of college baseball. He kept my scholarship alive. He kept my baseball career alive. And honestly, he sparked an interest in my life of strength and conditioning, because all I ever knew was being a sagittal plane monster, just lifting really heavy weights and trap bar deadlifts and front squats and bench press and things of that nature. And Randy really opened up, I guess, a different side of strength and conditioning.
Fast forward to 2020, I come back, I'm in the best shape of my life. All my stuff is back. I'm in the mid-90s, spinning the ball really well, throwing strikes, and then COVID hits. As part of COVID and the cancellation of minor league season, I'm one of the guys that ends up getting released, and now I'm without a job. And the first place I knew to come back to was here, because I knew that they were going to have a plan for me, and they were going to not let me just stay by the wayside. They were going to care about me and give me something to look forward to. So with Randy's help, we just kept working.
And I thought I wanted to be a baseball coach, and honestly, between power and savage and things like that, it really turned my life into wanting to become a strength and conditioning coach, because I realized how much more there was to offer and how much of a benefit it could be for other athletes, because I went through it, and now it's like passing on and stepping it and giving it to the next generation.
The White Sox ended up coming back along with a bunch of other teams, and I was able to sign a new deal this spring, which was really, really a blessing for me, just to have another chance to play baseball as my, truly a second chance. And with that, I was able to have a really, really strong first half, performed extremely well, found myself in the top 30 for the organization.
That's what's beautiful about it. The science can take us so far, but then it becomes the art of, I gotta build a relationship with you. You gotta trust me, and I gotta trust you. And you can't fake that, you know that. I mean, most coaches know that. You can't fake that. That has to be genuine. And if you're not genuine in that desire to help a player get better, players see through that really rapidly. And so you have to be completely committed to being the guy who helps this player get better, understanding that he's the man in the arena, right? And that he gets the credit. And if he wants to throw a little shade your way and say, hey, this guy helped me a lot, great. But if not, you got to get your joy out of knowing that I helped that guy.
I sat down in February at the end of an off season and decided I was going to write a book. So I called a whole bunch of publishers, told them I needed to have it out by June, and they said, June of next year. Oh, you got like a year and a half. That's plenty of time. I said, no, I need to have it out before the college summer program starts, because if I don't get it done by then, I'm never going to get it done, because we're just going to get hammered. So I wrote for 3 months straight, and we were able to put the book out. But I wouldn't have even been able to do that if I hadn't had the staff that I did and the trust that staff was going to execute everything and crush it on the PD side. And before that, I held on to the reins really tight, but those guys coming in gave the opportunity for that to happen. And after it was the book, then it became the courses. And then after the courses, it was a membership-based website.
And then, being able to put together some kind of membership platform and book courses, and now some kind of training framework where people can take it, make it their own, and then be able to implement it with their teams.
I think it's going to be an amazing thing for the game, because I honestly believe that this will be so far the most well-rounded program that could achieve the most results for the most amount of players on both sides of the ball, both the hitters and the pitchers. Because it's not going to force everyone into a little box just with these little drills. And it's going to get people to move more efficiently, more effectively, more powerfully in shorter windows of time and space. And it's going to be a very easy thing that they can transition as a movement prep program before they go on the field, something they can do in training before they even pick up a bat and a ball, and something they could use during the training process. So we're super excited to release that.
started working with Kevin Gosman, who's with the San Francisco Giants now, when he was in high school. And from there, we just kind of built that relationship. I knew his brother before. He's good friends with my brother. You know, it's pretty much family. You know, he started having success in baseball, went to LSU, and once people saw what he was doing and what kind of results we were getting with him and then the other players, guys started paying attention to that, right? Out of this little closet, we had 5 minor league guys, which was pretty cool. You know, I was like thinking I was the coolest guy ever, training 5 minor league guys, and then ended up opening the facility with a business partner. And it was push. I was doing business as Push Performance, but it was not Push Performance. I was just essentially running the facility for him. This place you can get any kind of disease walking in there. It was gross and grungy. It was, looking back, it's cool, right? But at the time, it was just like not a good situation. I ended up getting out of that, went to open our own facility with now Nexera Physical Therapy. Phenomenal partnership with them. We both have a vision of baseball development, what we want to do, and you know, had that vision of a one-stop shop.
Having the in-house physical therapist is it's a huge bonus and a huge plus, because they obviously look at athletes through a different scope or lens than what we do as a strength coach. Strength coaches, you know, we're good at making guys really, really strong and big, or you know, vice versa if the guy's trying to lose some weight or something. But when it comes to that rehab, it's great to just have somebody that looks at it a little differently.
How it becomes more athlete specific is just tailoring to their workout or their game, and making sure that they're fueling their bodies correctly, so that they're not just, you know, oh hey, I want to gain weight, I'm going to eat McDonald's 3 times a day, because you know, ultimately it's just going to hurt them in the long run. And so just bringing the importance of nutrition to them, because a lot of them are, I mean, they're elite athletes already. They're great at what they do, but now let's take it just a little higher. Let's make your endurance a little better, or your energy a little better, or you're not getting injured as sick as much. So
the biggest thing here is just our kind of like our semi-private model. So it really kind of resembles, you know, a pro weight room. And then also you got high school guys back there all the way down to 10-year-olds. So, I mean, it's just that the mix of athletes that are on the floor at one time kind of shows you our culture here. There's no anybody's better than the other person just because you're a pro guy or just because you're a good high school guy, or, you know, whatever it may be. I think everything here is just all about family in a sense. Everybody knows everybody. Like we had a guy back there, he hit a PR and it was 80 miles an hour and it was a PR for him. And there was people that were just as jacked up and as pumped up for him. And, you know, it might not have been the 100 miles an hour that, you know, everybody's chasing, but it was still a PR and people were excited about it. And that's kind of like what happens here, is people get excited for other people. And I think that's the really big thing that makes us different here is, you know, we have our mound basically right in the middle of the gym. So that way when you're up throwing a bullpen, you have guys watching you. And I think that's what also kind of helps guys get ready for that next level too, is, you know, if you're throwing a bullpen and you got, you know, 30 guys that you're used to working out with watching you, you're going to be kind of a little bit more used to that spotlight type feeling, versus when you go to throw somewhere else and you got people watching you, you're not like, oh my goodness, like people are watching me. It's, you know, you're used to it.
The biggest thing I noticed when I was getting in the weight room is every strength coach, every performance coach, or whoever it may be, was centered around football, right? So if you look at our sport, it's a lot more unique in demand. Like there's more unique demands to it, right? Granted, we all rotate every single day, sprintings rotation, runnings rotation, change of directions rotation. But that being said, like we're asymmetrical rotary sport, right? Unless you're a cross-handed guy. So I was kind of just looking at how people move and how people threw and how people swung it and how people would go in a hole and get a backhand and have to throw across the diamond. And just these different positions guys would have to get into. And then also looking at these different body types that have success, right? Where you have a lot in baseball is a lot more like a slender, you know, more narrow framed athlete, right? Then you got guys like Mike Trout, obviously, who's a little bit bigger, you know, a little boxier. You know, he rotates different than Cody Bellinger, right? So their bodies rotate different. So just seeing that you know, noticeably of the eye, I was able to kind of just learn what I needed to learn biomechanically right? And how, and physiologically, what the demands are, what the needs were for each movement type, or each body type. And then from there, we just build a customized program based on what they specifically needed, right? And then we started getting into it like, okay, they're this good at this, let's keep them good at that, right? Let's not take what they're good at, take what they're good at and take away from them. Let's give them what they need. You know, let's increase what they need.
I wanted something real that people could add, that everyone could actually benefit from. Same thing in the book. There was hitting, there was pitching, there was strength and conditioning, there was PT, rehab. There was something for everyone. And that's what I wanted from the courses and the website too. So we needed like a program that was gonna move like water and kind of give the coach and the players the ability to easily dictate things.
So understanding that, okay, if we get an understanding of how to train coaches and teach other people how to do what we do, then we can impact thousands of players across the country on a regular basis, because we're going to help coaches understand how to make their players better. And so that change in thought process is really what caused the evolution of the business to go from saying, you know, we're going to be training as many players as we can at 2 shops full-time to, okay, how can we get into training coaches and then training other players how to understand and ask the right questions to their coaches they're already with at school.
What the market really told us was that all that education stuff is good, but you got to provide a better framework for us to be able to execute what you're talking about.
And so getting to see the business grow from what it was, where it was mostly just a player-driven business, to watching it go towards something that's more of an educational-based thing, and helping as many people as we could, it was really an incredible experience.
So this is the gym. With that in mind, first thing you come in, you see the Push Performance logo. You know you're at Push Performance, right? It's what our culture is about. It's about, you know, high energy, high functional athletes working together on customized programs. So that being said, we have our mounds and our weight room really close together, as you can see. That way our pitching staff, our coaching staff, our strength staff, our hitting guys, all can work closely together. And then we can build a customized program, an integrated program for each athlete. As you see, you got Push Performance on the racks, you got Push Performance on the benches, big Push Performance wall here. So you know where you're at when you walk in.
Sullivan, you got to make that play. That's what player development looked like when I was coming up. Player development wasn't a thing. It was like they would tell you what you had to do, but no one told us how to do it, right? We were just like, you got to hit. Okay, how do I do that, right? You know, I graduated college in '86, and it was about the time things like pitching coaches came around and hitting coaches. And so in their efforts to help, everybody kind of became cookie cutter, right? And so player development then was like, here's the process, this is what we do, and everybody does the same thing. This is our way. And that's really just more of a survival of the fittest kind of thing, right? It's like, it's still nothing more than selection and expose them to your system and then eliminate the people that don't make it.
In the biomechanics lab, the closest thing to big league players is little kids. They move the closest biomechanically to big leaguers. They stop their hips the earliest, they accelerate their trunk the best, their decel patterns are the best. They naturally do all of the things that need to be done. Most of the issues in baseball They're man-made. They're man-made. So why is it that all little kids get told to squash the bug, to rotate their hips? Because none of them do. Because their pelvis is moving around an anchored femur, their body's rotating, their lower half is stopping. When you look at little kids and you look at Fernando Tatis, they move the closest. It's everybody in the middle that gets screwed up. When you think about throwing, how many little kids get told, throw over the top, throw over the top? Because none of them throw over the top, because the arm needs to work around the trunk. I mean, the most converted positions to pitch when guys can't hit anymore are catchers and shortstops that all throw naturally. No one else has screwed them up. A lot of the injuries in pitching are an issue and a byproduct, not of overuse, but of poor overuse, moving really inefficiently and moving really poorly and forcing things upon kids that they don't do naturally, right? That's where the issues come from.
One of the first things we tell players when they come in to train at 108, even in the evaluation, first time I've ever meeting them is, if I asked you to do something and we're gonna try a drill or try a feel, I want you to tell me if you liked it or not, or if it worked or it didn't. Same reason if mom makes meatloaf for dinner and you sit down at the table and you try it and you want to throw up because it's so terrible, and then she says, how is it? You say, Mom, it was wonderful. Well, what do you think Mom's gonna do next week? She's gonna make that dang meatloaf one more time.
You look at golf, for example. Golf is light years ahead of baseball on the data collecting, on the movement screening with TPI. Now baseball has on-base U. You know, there's different things that are getting slowly implemented into the game of baseball that golf has owned for over a decade. You know, we're still so far behind that. We're constantly working behind the 8-ball with travel ball, with you know the showcase circuits, with those kind of things, with perfect game ratings, with PBR rankings, with whatever it may be. Guys are chasing that number versus chasing a true number of, you know, going back to basic velocity, right? Going back to exit velocity, going back to bat speed, going back to certain things that you have to have to attain to be a good baseball player.
But now I'm seeing a shift. I'm seeing a shift in what we look at as player development. And it's a grassroots effort. It starts from the bottom, players making themselves better. But I'm starting to see major league teams realize that instead of spending all these millions of dollars on an aging veteran, I can build 10 of those guys through my minor league system, you know, for a third of the cost or whatever, even probably less than that. And they're really seeing that if they can invest in true player development and actually help people get better, they can grow their own talent. And I think the message is there are a lot of good ball players out there. And the difference between good and great isn't much.
I think anybody that's been really in this thing for a long time, it kind of just parallels their own individual journey, right? But just individuals get there faster than large groups. It was in the dark ages. It wasn't a place where no one was willing to do anything new because they had already been there and done that and they knew everything already, right? And then new information started to come out. You get doctors and biomechanists and all these people with degrees telling everybody else, you know, like, you don't know anything, this is what it says, right? But the reality is, just like I talked about in my own journey earlier, these people are not wrong. These people are not wrong. The truth is in the middle, and taking a 10,000-foot view to truly understand like what has to happen, right? All the guys saying that were reluctant to change, they weren't wrong, man. They weren't wrong. There was a lot of messed up stuff going wrong in the new school, and there still is. There's guys gaining 2 miles an hour, but they're walking 15 guys a game. Right? They can't throw strikes. There's guys gaining velocity and get hurt. There's guys that are doing velocity programs and gaining nothing from it or getting hurt. Right? If you look at Driveline's own research from their own in-house controlled program, okay? Like over 50% of the guys, I believe it was, didn't gain anything, right? Like, and what is player development? Is it just velocity if you can't throw strikes? Right? So I think the game was in a place where no one was willing, and then it was forced into a space where people had to listen. And then it even got to a place where some people are now, where they're fully on board with this new thing, but they have no idea what they're doing and how many things they're screwing up. And it's gonna come full circle because that's how life is. That's the duality of it. There's a full circle here.
You know, now it's like you have TrackMan in every stadium, you got Hawkeye in every stadium, you got all these cool aspects, you got StatCast, you got every, catch probabilities now, you got all these different things that you can achieve. So we're gonna look at, how fast can a guy cover a 10-yard sprint? We're gonna look at, how fast of a reaction time does a guy have in a ball drop, or whatever it may be. So there's different ways to mimic what you're chasing on the data side in the weight room. I'm really excited about that. That's kind of like our philosophy, where we're addressing things in the weight room that, StatCast is gonna love, right? And I think that's where baseball is going. There's still so much more room for improvement, and just even buy-in from old school coaches.
There's going to continue to be this intermingling, and there are going to be old school guys who resist it. Hey, if you never played, you can't tell us how to play. The private sector is going to be involved in pro baseball for a long time to come, because from the top down, they're realizing that the old school way was not player development. It was just recruiting, scouting, selecting, and eliminating. And we only saw the people that made it through. We didn't see the people that just failed. And so I think you're going to see a lot fewer misses in the draft, because people are going to be able to select better because the information is available, but also they won't give up on a guy and say, well, he just doesn't have it. If he didn't fit my system, then my system's the problem, right? It's not up to the player to conform to my system. It's up to me as the coach to find a way to help him improve himself.
And the truth is that the biggest edge on the whole planet is player development. That's where the biggest bang for the buck is. Because when you really start to figure out what needs to happen, the ability to get guys to do it is way faster, right? Look at the Giants. Look at the Giants. 2 years ago, they were like the 26th ranked offense in Major League Baseball. This year, they're in the top 5 and leading Major League Baseball in home runs with a largely veteran team, a lot of the same hitters, right? And they even happened to pick a guy up. I think what was his name? Lamont Wade. And how did that happen? Well, the hitting coach at Maryland, Matt Swope, who does a brilliant, incredible job, worked with Lamont all off season on doing the right things. And then he has a great relationship with Donnie Ecker, the big league hitting coach for the Giants, who we've been working with for 7 years. And, Lamont goes to the Giants, and they're all preaching the same things. And all of a sudden, the veteran team is the best offense in Major League Baseball, and now ends up in the playoff hunt and has a shot to win a World Series. That's player development. Make no mistake. Donnie has had results at every single level, year after year, with a new team and a new set of hitters. And I think he averages 7 guys on the team having a career year. That's not a mistake. That's not an accident. That's called a guy that's a really effective communicator that knows exactly what needs to happen, and he works hard to communicate with players on how they can get it done.
So anyone out there who's trying to get to that next level, the message is, it's not a gift from God, Anyone can do it. We have it written on our wall in our gym. God doesn't make junk, and human tissue doesn't have free will. If you stretch it, it's got to get longer. If you strengthen it, it's got to get stronger. If we teach your body it has to learn, it can't decide, no, I don't want to. If the training's right, the body will adapt. And so it's a matter of getting the training right. And the kids really bought into the process and were willing to let us learn together.
They've done so much for me that without any guarantee of anything coming back their way. And sure, there were times like, yeah, I paid for training here and I'm a customer to them and all that, but they've still done things for me that I don't have any way to pay them back as much as they've given me a second chance, because I would not be playing. And now I have a chance to write my own story because of the tools that they've given me.
Our job is to prepare them for that next season. Wherever they were, we want to move them up the ladder and move them to the next step. And I think it's that true feeling that we're going to help them no matter where that they are. But in the end, our guys continue to get better.
I really think that 5 years from now, 6 years from now, we'll have the opportunity to work with more guys. But at the same time, I don't want to degrade what we're doing. We've had opportunities to move to other states or do other things, but for me, it's more about what we've built as a whole and not jeopardizing that. And it's just keeping our track record strong and whether that be helping colleges or universities or whatever it may be. But I think just keeping our community strong as a whole as Push, and our brand strong as Push, and just keeping it going.
If you have faith in the direction you're going, that certain things have to get wiped away to create the environment for new things to happen. And that gave us the ability to really hit the gas pedal and build even more.
Everyone has a story. I'm Monty Lee, and this is the story of Clemson baseball.
Everyone has a story. My name is Joe Urso, and this is the story of Tampa baseball.
Everyone has a story. I'm Tim Scannell, and this is the story of Trinity baseball.